You wake up in the morning. Your eyes are barely open. You have not checked the weather. You have not listened to your body. You have not even fully remembered who you are yet. But one thought is already there. I need coffee. Not, I would enjoy coffee. Not, coffee sounds nice. Need. You walk into an office, and the ritual is everywhere. Paper cups, ceramic mugs, espresso machines, someone holding a latte like it is the only thing standing between them and emotional collapse. And then someone says the most modern sentence ever spoken. Don't talk to me until I've had my coffee, which sounds normal now. But for almost all of human history, this sentence would have made absolutely no sense. Your ancestors had no lattes, no iced Americanos, no cold brew, no espresso shots, no Starbucks, no oat milk upcharge, no little cardboard sleeve protecting their hand from their own bad decisions. They did not wake up and say, I haven't had my caffeine yet. They did not hit a 3 p.m. crash and rescue themselves with a plastic cup full of brown liquid and office survival. So how did they stay awake? And more importantly, how did coffee go from a wild plant fruit to a tool for religious devotion, then to coffeehouses, global trade, office culture, lifestyle branding, and finally, the tiny morning switch that turns modern humans back on? This is not just the story of a drink. It is the story of how humans turned wakefulness into a product. And once you see that, coffee starts to look very different. First, we need to destroy one idea. Ancient humans did not drink coffee, especially not hunter-gatherers. They had no roasted beans, no grinders, no filters, no pour-over technique, no reusable cup they kept forgetting in the car. But that does not mean they were walking around half asleep. Their way of being awake was different from ours. Ancient wakefulness came from the world itself. The sun came up. Light entered the eyes. The body started moving. If you were hungry, you looked for food. If you were cold, you made fire or found shelter. If you heard something move in the dark, you did not need caffeine. You were awake immediately. Fear's a very strong espresso, and their daily life kept the body engaged, gathering food, tracking animals, carrying wood, making tools, talking with the group, moving through real landscapes. The body was constantly being pulled into action. They did not need to sit in a sealed room for 8 hours, staring at glowing rectangles, pretending their brain was still online. They did not need to keep answering emails after their nervous system had quietly left the building. So ancient humans did not need morning coffee before work. Not because they were stronger, but because they did not have morning meetings. That is the real beginning of the coffee story. Humans did not always need coffee. Later ways of living created the need for it. Coffee has a famous origin story. Maybe you have heard it. Somewhere in the Ethiopian highlands, a goat herder named Kaldi notices something strange. His goats eat red berries from a certain plant. And suddenly, they are not normal goats anymore. They are jumping around. They are full of energy. They are basically doing goat cardio at midnight. Kaldi sees this and thinks, reasonably, something is happening here. So he brings the berries to religious men nearby. Eventually, people discover that this fruit can help humans stay awake too. It is a great story. It has goats. It has mystery berries. It has just enough chaos to feel believable. But historically, it is probably more legend than fact. The more reliable trail is this. The coffee plant is strongly connected to the Ethiopian highlands, but coffee as a cultivated, roasted, brewed drink is usually linked to Yemen around the 15th century. And the first people who really brought coffee onto the stage of history were probably not merchants, not writers, not office workers pretending to answer emails while secretly watching productivity videos. They were religious practitioners, In Yemen, some Sufi communities use coffee during long nighttime prayers and rituals. The night was long. The body got tired. Attention faded. So coffee became a tool, a way to stay awake, a way to stay focused, a way to keep the mind alert when the body wanted to sleep. That is important. Coffee was not first used so someone could survive a spreadsheet. It was used to guard the night. From the beginning, coffee was tied to one human problem. The body wants to rest, but the mind is being asked to continue. That is the seed of the whole story. So why did coffee spread? Because it solved a problem almost every society understands. People get tired. People get sleepy. People lose focus. During prayer, during study, during trade, during long conversations, during work. Coffee made people sharper, more alert, more able to stay awake. And this is where coffee becomes interesting, because it is almost the opposite of alcohol. Alcohol softens the mind. Coffee tightens it. Alcohol lowers defenses. Coffee raises attention. Alcohol says, forget the day. Coffee says, continue the day. Alcohol belongs to escape. Coffee belongs to extension. That is why coffee suited cities so well. Cities are not quiet places. Cities are full of merchants, students, scholars, travelers, rumors, prices, contracts, arguments, politics, and long conversations that should probably have ended an hour ago. These people did not just need something warm to drink. They needed a drink that could keep the conversation going, keep the deal going, keep the thinking going, keep the night going. Coffee arrived with exactly the right power. It did not pull people into drunkenness. It held them inside wakefulness. And that changed everything. Because coffee did not just enter the human body. It gathered awake people around the same table. That table became one of the most important spaces in coffee history, the coffee house. As coffee spread from Yemen to Mecca, Cairo, Istanbul, and then into more cities, coffee houses began appearing. And a coffee house was never just a place to buy a drink. It was an information machine. People went there to talk, to play chess, to hear news, to do business, to read newspapers, to discuss politics, to trade gossip, to complain about powerful people, which is one of humanity's oldest and most reliable hobbies. This was not the same as a tavern. A tavern loosened people. A coffee house sharpened them. In a tavern, the night might dissolve into singing, fighting, flirting, or making a decision you regret in the morning. In a coffee house, people stayed awake. They talked longer. They argued harder. They read. They listened. They planned. Before phones, before the internet, before news feeds, coffee houses were places where information moved. Someone arrived from the port with news. A merchant brought price changes. A traveler described a war. A scholar shared a new idea. At one table, you might have business, politics, literature, religion, conspiracy, and someone very confidently being wrong. So yes, the coffee house was basically an early social network, but instead of posts, there were conversations. Instead of notifications, there were rumors. Instead of scrolling, there was sitting. And instead of an algorithm, there was coffee. Coffee kept people awake. Coffee houses connected awake people. And once awake, people start gathering in public. Ideas begin to move faster. That is when coffee stops being just a drink. It becomes infrastructure. But once coffee became demand, it became something else, a commodity. And once something becomes a global commodity, the story gets darker. The Yemeni port of Mocha became one of the great early centers of coffee trade. That is where the word mocha enters the story, not as a chocolate-flavored dessert drink with whipped cream, as a port. A place where coffee moved from local use into wider trade networks. From there, coffee traveled through the Red Sea and into the wider world. And later, European colonial systems spread coffee cultivation across Asia, the Caribbean, and Latin America. Now, coffee was not just a plant. It was land. It was ships. It was ports. It was plantations. It was forced labor. It was colonial power. It was global markets. This is the part that does not fit neatly on a cute cafe menu. When you buy a coffee in the morning, it looks like a tiny personal ritual. But behind that cup is a chain, a farmer growing coffee in tropical mountains, workers picking coffee cherries, processing stations, exporters, ships, roasters, brands, cafes, office towers. Your hand. Coffee has never been just a drink. It is a global supply chain disguised as a morning habit. And that is what makes its history so complicated. On one side, coffee means energy, conversation, social life, and comfort. On the other side, it is tied to empire, extraction, labor exploitation, and global inequality. The same drink that helped people stay awake also became part of systems most people were never meant to see. And that pattern will return, because coffee keeps following power. Then came industrialization, and coffee found its perfect habitat. Modern work. Industrial society needed a new kind of human being, someone who wakes up at a fixed time, arrives at a fixed time, works for fixed hours, ignores fatigue, stays productive, repeats this 5 days a week, or 6, or 7, if the economy is feeling creative. This was a world almost designed for coffee. You are tired, but the shift starts. You are sleepy, but the meeting begins. Your brain starts shutting down after lunch, but your inbox has other plans. You slept badly, but the alarm does not care. So coffee becomes the fuel of modern work. A morning coffee is not just a drink. It is a power button. An afternoon coffee is not just a treat. It is a backup battery. The office coffee machine is not just a perk. It is the entire workplace quietly admitting one thing: people get tired. But work does not stop just because people get tired. That is coffee's most modern role. It does not simply make people happy. It helps tired people keep running. And that is where the story gets uncomfortable. Because modern people do not need coffee only because they love the taste. Many times, modern life creates the exhaustion first. Then, coffee covers it up. The system makes you tired, then sells you the feeling of being functional again. Very convenient. Suspiciously convenient. Later, coffee changed again. It stopped being just a stimulant. It became a lifestyle. Black coffee, cappuccino, cold brew, pour over, single origin, light roast, dark roast. Flavor notes, altitude, processing method, latte art, minimalist cafe design, a wooden table, a laptop, one tiny plant. A person pretending they are not checking whether anyone saw their story. Coffee was no longer just something that keeps me awake. It became something that says something about me. What you drink, where you drink it, what cup you use, whether you photograph it, what kind of cafe you sit in. All of it became identity. Brands like Starbucks helped turn coffee into the famous third place. Not home, not work, a third space. A place where you could meet a friend, open a laptop, sit alone, or spend $7 to feel like your life had structure. Then, specialty coffee pushed this even further. Now, people talk about country, farm, altitude, roast profile, tasting notes, acidity, body, finish. A cup of coffee can apparently taste like blueberry, jasmine, brown sugar, citrus, and a clean finish, which is impressive because sometimes it mostly tastes like hot anxiety. But the point is this: coffee became an aesthetic system. At first, coffee helped people stay awake. Later, it helped people look like they had a certain kind of life. And this is not necessarily bad. Ritual matters. Small pleasures matter. A morning coffee can genuinely make life feel more ordered. But it also shows that modern coffee is no longer just caffeine. It is efficiency. It is taste. It is identity. It is social space. It is comfort. It is consumption. All in one cup. So why can modern people not live without coffee? The obvious answer is caffeine. But that is not the whole answer. Coffee satisfies several modern needs at once. It gives wakefulness. It gives ritual. It gives social permission. It gives emotional comfort. It gives your day a beginning. For many people, what they depend on is not only the chemical, it is the sequence: grinding the beans, boiling the water, brewing, smelling the aroma, holding the cup, taking the first sip, or walking into the same cafe and ordering the same drink from the same tired-looking barista who has seen too much. These actions are a small ritual, and modern life is starving for rituals. Everything is fast. Everything is scheduled. Everything wants a response. Messages, deadlines, notifications, tasks, meetings. But coffee creates a tiny pause, a moment where you can tell yourself, okay, now I begin. That is why coffee is so powerful. It is a stimulant, but it is also a comfort object. It is a productivity tool, but it is also an emotional tool. It is a commodity, but it is also a ritual. You think you need coffee, and maybe you do. But maybe what you really need is a reason to begin slowly in a world that keeps demanding you start immediately. So did ancient humans drink coffee? No, they had no lattes, no espresso, no cold brew, no iced Americanos, no tiny loyalty card promising the 10th drink would be free, as if that somehow makes the first 9 okay. But they also did not have the modern schedule. They were not dragged by an alarm clock into a meeting room after too little sleep. They did not sit in front of a screen using caffeine to suppress fatigue. They did not treat wakefulness as something that had to be purchased. The real history of coffee is not just the journey from Ethiopia to Yemen, or from the port of Mecca to European coffeehouses, or from colonial plantations to modern chain stores. It is the history of how humans changed the way they stayed awake. At first, humans woke with the sun. Then, religious practitioners used coffee to protect the night. Then, merchants, scholars, writers, and political thinkers used coffeehouses to keep ideas moving. Then, industrial workers and office workers used coffee to survive time schedules that did not care what the body wanted. Coffee witnessed humanity's movement from natural time to religious time, from religious time to urban time, from urban time to industrial time, from industrial time to office time, and now, maybe, to notification time. Your ancestors did not need coffee because they were stronger. They did not need it because modern life had not yet demanded that they keep working when the body wanted to rest. And maybe that is coffee's deepest contradiction. It gives us wakefulness, but it also tells the truth about our exhaustion. Every morning, when you reach for that cup, you are not just drinking a beverage. You are drinking a tiny piece of human history. A plant from the highlands, a tool for prayer, a fuel for conversation, a product of empire, a machine for work, a lifestyle symbol, a ritual of survival, all compressed into one cup. And the strangest part is this: coffee did not create the modern world, but the modern world made coffee feel necessary. So tomorrow morning, when you take that first sip and feel yourself slowly becoming human again, ask one small question: do I really need coffee? Or do I need a life that does not require so much of it?